they will actually say plenty of correct information, right? So they'll focus on like, having high fruit and vegetable intake and limiting this and that. And then they either just add stuff or yet people, I guess, will look for alternatives. I just saw a YouTube ad. So I'm a dentist, right? And I saw this YouTube ad on this guy's like a 5-minute video on like, he's got this secret on how you don't have to extract teeth. You don't have to go to the dentist. And I'm like, oh my, what is this? And it was just like a pill. It was like a pill that's supposed to make your saliva work better. And literally he was like, don't ever have to go back to the dentist. And I was like, how is this possible that this is even like legally promoted right now? But then we have books like Medical Medium, right? And so that book, my dad will every once in a while be like, you got to read this book, right? And he's a smart guy, he's an attorney, he's educated, but I think people who don't have like a significant background in like specifically nutrition and like the scientific method will get caught up in things. And I'm like, look, I went through like half the book and I was like, I can't read this book anymore, and I saw you made a post about Medical Medium. So maybe touch on that a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I tried to read a recent article. It's trying like, what quackery is he promoting today? I was like, I couldn't even get past one paragraph. Like, none of this makes sense if you have any understanding of biology.
Yeah.
But he uses a lot of words like toxins and poisons and industrial. And so it induces a lot of fear. It's like, once you create that fear, then he's creating a solution and resolving that fear. Right? So that's what really draws people in.
Yeah. And they don't, again, it's been a while since I even checked out. Wasn't he saying like, wasn't the whole thing about being a medium that he was saying that he was getting these answers from like they were coming to it? Yeah. Which is like, how does that not set off like 20 red flags in your head immediately? I don't know, but
I don't know either. Yeah, he said that he got spirit when he was 4 years old, the story I'd heard, and that he sensed that his grandma had lung cancer, and his spirit told him that, and then his grandma did have lung cancer. So again, how that's not a red flag. And
right.
like, I support people's spirituality and whatever you want to believe, but once you start saying that this applies to the whole world and that you have the answers for everyone's health, it's like trying to be a prophet and worshiping a false god.
Right. Mark Hyman is another one that I think, I don't know if he's as bad, but that was another book my dad wanted me to read. And I was just like, we gotta sit down and talk about these books. But with Mark, what I find it was with a lot of these people is they will actually say plenty of correct information, right? So they'll focus on like, having high fruit and vegetable intake and limiting this and that. And then they either just add stuff or they extrapolate way beyond what the data actually suggests. And so those are the hardest people to, like, for instance, there's a guy, what's his name? I don't know, some like primal organ meat eating guy right now, and he's like, popular. And it's like, okay, so he's clearly ridiculous, right? I mean, he's literally saying, I just eat organ meat. He's like, if you have a weak heart, eat heart, and like, like eat heart meat and all, like just whatever. And so like, I think most people could see that, and it's like, all right, like he's getting a following, but it's kind of a joke. Like it's very obvious. But like somebody like Mark Hyman, it's like, oh, like this is actually legitimate. And look at he's got all these studies. And if it's in a study that nobody's actually going to go read the original research, then it's supported. And those people, it's very hard for the average person to dismiss or even know that they should be dismissed, because a lot of it is actually accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. That they are then start talking in absolutes because people don't like the answer, it depends.
Yeah.
And talking those absolutes, it's easier for people to understand rather than getting the nuance of understanding. And yeah, with him in particular, it's very tricky. He's a doctor. He's got his MD, and he said there are some things, I'm not going to argue that a plant-based diet is not good for people. That's right. But then he kind of takes it the extra step to make himself stand out. And at that point, then people trust him. It's discrediting people who are saying something different.
Yeah, he's not even just a doctor. I think he was at Cleveland Clinic. Like he was at like a esteemed, facility. And, he's like, oh, and I'm sure people could say like, well, this guy's a Cleveland Clinic physician. Like, who are you? And It is tough, especially, I mean, somebody like you or like Lane with like a PhD in it, or Gabrielle Fandaro, but like, people who have less of a background, I just think it's understandable how hard it is to dismiss some of these people. But it's a shame because I don't think it's ever going to go away. We can always just try to educate, but the magnanimous personalities and things like that are often going to win out. And I guess all you can do is just kind of chip away at it and keep trying to provide good knowledge, but it's tough.
Yeah, and the more voices like what you're doing and Gabby's doing and Lane's doing is sharing the science and getting people to trust us, the scientists, get out there. And I
Yeah.
think we need to be supporting more of that science communication on social media. That's where people are. And there are people who need to be in the labs doing the science. We need those types of scientists, but we
Yeah.
also need people at the level that are going to translate it and get the message out. Because yes, there are great organizations like American Institute for Cancer Research is one of my favorite organizations in nutrition and cancer, for example, or we've got our academies, our professional organizations, but those are organizations, they're not people. So when
Right.
they're giving out information on their social media, no one sees a face behind
Hmm.
that. Who is behind that?
Yep.
And so if we can create more faces of the science, I think that's how we continue to chip away at that.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. As far as research goes, people often talk about how nutritional research is very hard to conduct. One, because compliance is often very poor. People just lie about their diet, they misremember. A
Mhm.
lot of it's epidemiological studies. How does that factor into what you do? Do you find it hard to make robust conclusions from the information that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. It's our trials are small and they're largely based on large population studies that we're seeing associations with, but we don't have long-term intervention studies. And as you
Mm.
talked about, the adherence is a big part of it. Like, okay, if this diet is doing these awesome things, but people only 10% were sticking to it, is that
Yeah.
really something I'm going to recommend to people? And there's not enough money invested in funding nutrition research.
Right.
And then if there is funding from industry who does want to support the science, yes, they want the science to help develop the next product and whatever, but it's supporting nutrition science. Oh, you have bias automatically if
Right.
you
Of
accept
course.
funding from industry. It's like, so what do you want? You want more nutrition research, but you don't want the money coming from anywhere that you think is impure. Like,
Right. Yeah, which is tough, right? I mean, that's a lot of the issues with pharmaceutical research as well. And it's both a completely legitimate concern when like the pharmaceutical company is funding all of it, but at the same time, who else is going to fund it with that much money? I mean, it's kind of like, where do
mhm.
you, and it's a shame also because like you do every once in a while come across these kind of like scandals where it's like, wow, there really was like this like really nefarious activity going on, right? And I think even if that's a small percentage, I think then that colors people's views about what is like really going on with most research.
Yeah. It's like, again, people can attack the nutrition research from, oh, it's government funded, big government, right? Or
Right.
food
Yeah.
industry or pharmaceutical. Like, so we want people giving us money out of their pocketbooks. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
where's that money going to come from? And I actually wish more pharmaceutical companies would invest some money into supporting nutrition research to
Yeah.
see how nutrition can help support the efficacy of their drugs.
Yeah.
Because right now it's kind of like
Okay.
either or drugs or nutrition approach. It's
Mhm.
like the nutrition approach can actually potentially support your outcomes.
Yeah, yeah, no, because but when you started that sentence, I was thinking in my mind like it would be great if they supported the nutrition research, but they really don't have any incentive to. But in how you're saying it, if it helps the clinical outcomes from the pharmaceuticals, then that could make sense.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not saying that either or. If you're saying like, actually, if you get people on this diet, longer time till resistance of treatments, that's a positive. That means people
yeah.
can stay on your drug for longer and get better outcomes.
Yeah, yeah, and even going back to like specific carbohydrate diet, I've heard people in those forums and everything say that, in their opinion, it allowed them to respond to these biologic